We have here our crocheted version of a knitted knocker. Okay, for those of you who don't knit, the crochet version is also very nice to make. It's adjustable. Okay, we leave a bit of yarn at the end so that way they can open it up, adjust the stuffing, and then pull it closed so that the stuffing is the right amount. Okay, it also has the nice triangular shape that the knitted knocker has, and we're going to go ahead and show you how to make one. So the first thing that it says to do is to create a magic ring. I am not good making the magic rings, so I'm going to show you how to make a sloppy Slipknot ring. So you make your loop just like normal, and you bring up the yarn just like normal, but do not pull it tight. Put your hook in, and then what you're going to do, we make our yarn, reach in, pull up, but don't pull it tight. You see how it's kind of like a pretzel shape, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to chain one, and then we are going to go over this twisted piece of yarn. So you go in, and we're going around the twist, okay? And we're going to do 6 single crochets. And we just make sure we don't split the yarn. 4, 5, and 6. Okay, we're going to put our marker in for the beginning of the row. And now comes the fun part. If you pull gently on the tail, it closes up that little hole. So round 2, we're going to increase in each stitch. So that means do 2 singles in each stitch. And we're working through both loops, not just one loop. So we do 2. And we're going to do 2 across for a total of 12. And we take our marker out and do the last 2. And I'm just going to count to make sure we have 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to put our marker back in. You can close the markers. It depends really how open they are, whether or not they'll stay. So now, round 3, we're going to add extra markers. So I like to pick markers that are different colors. So the green one will start my row, and then the orange ones will just be markers. So we're going to work 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. And then we are going to increase in the next 2 single crochets. So 2 increases. So 1 and 2. And then it says to place a marker. So we place a marker in the stitch that we just worked. And now we're going to repeat that. So we're going to work 2 singles, 1 in each. And then we're going to do 2 singles in the next 2 stitches for 2 increases. And this is helping us get that triangular shape. And then we put a marker in the last one. And now we do this one more time. So a single, and then 2 increases. So 1, 2. We take our first marker out and we finish with 2 increases in the last stitch, or just an increase. Okay, put our marker back in. Now the next rows we're just going to keep increasing, so we're going to do 4 singles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to increase in the next 2. So we do an increase here, and then another increase, and the markers really make life easy. So we're basically gonna single crochet until 1 stitch before the marker, and then we do 2 increases. Take our marker out, do another increase, put the marker back in, and then do 4, and then 2 increases to end the row. Okay, so row 5, we're going to work 7 single crochets and then an increase, so a little bit different. 2, 6 and 7. And then we work our increase in that marked stitch. And then we repeat that 2 more times. Now it's very important with making the knitted knockers and the crocheted knockers that you use yarn that has been approved by knittedknockers.org. I'm using the Cloudborne Pima Cotton, and you keep your labels, because when you mail them in, you give them the labels as well. That way they can tell exactly what the yarn is made of, so that way nobody has problems. Okay, so make sure you keep your yarn labels. Just going to move my marker so it doesn't fall out. Now once we get up to rows 6 and 7, those are going to be the rounds that you're going to repeat until you get to your desired cup size for the knocker. And it shows you that A cups you're going to work until you have a total of 54 stitches, B cup is 63 stitches, and it goes on from there. So you can pick whichever size you would like to make, and then you just keep increasing, repeating rows 6 and 7 until you get up to the desired number of stitches. So now this is row 6, and it says work to 1 single crochet before the marked stitch, and then you're going to increase in the next 2. So we're gonna work until we get to 1 stitch before our marker. This is why the markers really come in handy, because the stitch count is going to change each row, and they don't exactly tell you how many stitches it is. So we work to 1 stitch before our marker, and we're going to increase, and then we're also going to increase in the stitch where our marker is. Now if one of your markers should accidentally fall off and you don't know where it is, all of the stitches between your markers are the same amount. So you would just count how many stitches are between these two markers, and then you would put your marker in that number up over here. So we're going to go and we work again until we get to 1 stitch before the marker. And then we work the next increase. So we work an increase here. We take our marker out and work another increase. Now the next row, row 7, is you're going to work till you get up to your marker, and then where your marker is, you're going to increase. So you're going to alternate between rows 6 and 7. You're going to repeat them. So one row you'll be increasing 2 times, the next row just 1 time. And that gives us this shape that's, actually it's on this side. This is the top of it. So you'll get, it does swirl a little bit, okay, and that's where your increases are. Now, once you get up to the right number of stitches that you want, you're going to work 2 rows in the back loop, and that kind of gives you a ridge and a little bit of depth before we start turning. So let me just show you how to work in a back loop. So if you look at the top of your stitches, you'll see that there's V's. So normally we're going under both of them. When you work just in the back loop, you're going to go between the V into this back stitch. And then you just single crochet like normal. So again, you go into the back and crochet like normal. Okay? And then that gives you a little bit of a ridge. Okay? You're going to work 2 rows in the back loops. Okay? Okay, and then we're going to start on our decreasing. So now for our decreasing, we have this one here, and you can see I've gone up to my requisite number of stitches. I worked my 2 rows in the back loop, and you'll see, notice how it's kind of, the fabric is folding on itself. That's what happens when you work in the back loops, and that's exactly what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and put my marker in, my stitch in, and what we're going to do for round 1, and there's really only 1 row with our back part, is you're going to you're going to decrease. So we single crochet 2 together, and to do that, what I like to do is the first one I go into the front loop. So before we went into the back loop, you go into the front loop and you just leave it like that. Just put this front loop on your hook. Then go into the next stitch and bring up a loop. So you'll see that there are 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through both. And that gives you an invisible decrease. So that way you really don't see it. So then you're going to single crochet to 1 stitch before the mark. Before your marker. So we just go around until we get to 1 stitch before the marker. Okay. And then you're going to do another decrease. SC2 together. I don't know why I couldn't say that at first. So we just, again, you single crochet, and we're back to working through both loops. Not just the back loop or the front loop. When we do our single crochets, they're back to both loops. Okay, and we go to 1 stitch before the marker, okay, which is right here. So we take our marker out, and then again we're going to do an invisible decrease. So the first part, we just grab this first loop. Then we go into the next stitch and pull up a loop for 3 loops on the hook. 1, 2, 3. Yarn over through all 3. Okay, and that is our invisible decrease. So you continue around until you have 15 single crochets left. So that will be your decreases line up over here. And by saying invisible decrease, it just means that there's not really a big hole where the decreases are. So you just keep going until you have 15 single crochets left. You're going to cut your yarn, leaving a 10-inch tail. Okay, you want to leave a long tail. That way we can weave in our end, and they'll be able to adjust it by taking out or putting in the amount of stuffing that they require. And then you have a crocheted knocker.